Right, we in? We in?
Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. We've nailed it so far, so it's a good start. Right, so I'll do the intro, I'll do the honours. Right, hello people. We're back, we're in the shed and we're talking. Newcomers, I haven't got a co-host today, but I have got a very exciting guest. So I'm just gonna reel off some of these accolades. Ex-Marine turned motivational speaker, turned mental health advocate. There's loads of things. We're gonna get into it. Ryan Mo Morris, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, mate. I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. You're our most decorated guest by far. I just look forward to it, you know. I've seen some of the stuff you're doing online and it really resonates with me.
Oh,
So
cheers, mate.
we've got a lot of stuff to get into, but I kind of want to get a bit chronological, talk about you a bit, kind of what you've done, because you sent me your sort of resume and you've done so much stuff. It's so impressive. And I want to just start with the Marines, how you got into that, what was sort of your mindset when joining. So if you just
Yeah,
talk us
mate.
through that.
It was interesting because I'd never really thought about it until the other day when I was speaking to one of my friends, and it was basically it boils down to two things. One, having pivotal people in your life at significant moments in time that you don't think, looking back, or at the time you
Yeah,
don't think significant, but looking back they're quite pivotal. And secondly, my journey has come from a fear of failure and not being able to understand or cope with failure, which I'm much better at now.
yeah,
I remember, so I used to go to cadets,
yeah.
and I suppose I always wanted a place to be, and I always wanted to be part of something that I probably didn't really get that from home as much
Okay.
as I needed it to be. I mean, there
Yeah,
was, my mum had four of us, so she had to quarterize herself, and so I probably needed a bit more than quarter of my mum's time, which
for
she
sure.
couldn't give through no fault of her own. And so I was always looking for something, and yeah, so I joined the cadets and I loved it. And it was it was kind of like a natural progression, but at the same time, it still was a massive step. And I remember being at home once. I was 19. I'd contemplated joining the Marines for a few years because you can join when you're 16. But
Yeah,
and I'll take my hat off to anybody that goes through those gates at 16 years old.
sure. It's daunting.
Trying to, you're a boy.
Yeah,
You're at, and yeah. So I remember just one day sat at home jumping up and jumped on the train into London, where the careers office was in the Strand, just at Trafalgar Square at the time. Walked in and said, I want to join the Marines. And that was that. And I remember coming home and saying to my mum, just to let you know, I've just signed up for the Marines. And she was like, all right. And I said, there's not really much you can do about it because
no,
I'm over 18. So
yeah,
I'm doing it. And that was it, really. It wasn't like, it didn't seem like it was a big decision,
yeah,
but it was more like, it felt like more of an epiphany at the time, where I was just sat there and I went, oh, I'm going to go and do that.
yeah,
But looking back, it probably, I mean, I'd been in the cadets since I was 13. So it had been building and building and building. So it felt like a simple decision to make, but I was going down that path anyway,
yeah. I think people look
so
for that sometimes as well. They think they're going to have that sort of moment like, this is what I want to do. But I do think sometimes it's a case of it does work itself out, you know? You've got to be out and about and put yourself out there. And then you kind of, more often than not, you can find yourself somewhere doing something you really enjoy. And it's just great. So how long did you actually serve in the Marines for?
well, I'm still in now. I'm still
Okay.
serving now. Yeah. So I haven't left. So I served 19 years.
Oh,
Yeah. And so that's gone like with a blink of an eye. And it was crazy. I mean, I remember training being, I don't know, training was everything I thought it was going to be and more.
yeah.
Like I never underestimated how hard it would be.
Talk to us about a bit some of the training you had to do, because that fascinates me. Just that grind, that intensity.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of the good thing, like, so it was 32 weeks long at the time,
Yeah,
and it's changed in length, but it is there or thereabouts. It's
for
30
sure.
30 plus weeks. And the good thing about training is you can't look at it as a 32-week block because it's so much going on. You can only look at what's going on in the next 5 minutes,
Yeah,
or then you get up the next day and focus on making your bed, and then you're like, now what's next? You can't really. It's so big, but you can't do it anyway. And I think it would be daunting if you did try to do that. So taking it as it comes, taking it piecemeal, bit by bit, is exactly how you overcome a goal and challenge anyway. And that's why I just put something out on Insta, literally, I think it was yesterday or today, saying it's about the process and the journey, not the outcome or result. And so, and there's nothing more true than that. But yeah, I mean, the first sort of 9 weeks are the shocker capture weeks where, you know, you've got guys from all over the place as well. Like, you know, they tried to do a study to determine who physically is the best cut of person, you know, certain size, certain shape, certain weight, certain functional movement standards. And it doesn't really work like that because it's so arduous. You know, there's guys that have got inverted knees, for instance, flat feet. They'll pass out of training. And other guys that have come from professional rugby teams may not. And so it's just it's a whole myriad of people. And that's one thing I love about the Marines is it doesn't discriminate against where you're from, what you've done, and who you are, because what it discriminates against is whether you're good enough to be in the service. And I love that. It gives you a whole new tribe, a whole new purpose, place to be. But yeah, I mean, training was something else. I mean, some of the assault course sessions that we would do, even though you're fairly comfortable, I mean, it might be like 3 hours.
Never an easy day.
And when people are talking about hit training.
Yeah.
Hit training, what, 20, 30 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, you feel like you're on a 3-hour hit session, you know, it's
that would do it.
But you know what though? What I would say is you're not doing it on your own.
Yeah.
And you're with guys, you're with guys that are trying to achieve the same things as you. And some days you're the pigeon, some days you're the statue. Yeah. And when it's your turn to be the statue, you've got other guys that are around that are trying to help you and pull you through it. And that's where the shared hardship, you start learning the shared hardship breeds cohesion.
I mean, is that what kind of drew you in, that sort of sense of almost belonging, teamwork, unity? Like you're all in this together, right? You're all working towards the same goal. It's like you're literally just doing the same thing.
I mean, that absolutely did. But the element that really attracted me to everything was the commando values and the ethos that the Royal Marines has. And I said to you before about like wanting to belong somewhere. It was like a round peg and a round hole for me.
Yeah, just worked.
And I found it really difficult. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it was easy, but it was like, this just makes sense to me. Yeah, it makes sense. And like, strangely enough, like we recruit abnormal people to do an abnormal job.
For sure.
So everyone's a little bit odd in the Marines in their own right, because you need that like sprinkling of variety to make it what it is, and I love that, because there'll be guys that I mean, there was a guy that was that passed out of training a couple of years ago I ended up playing rugby with, and he was like an investment banker.
Yeah, it's just so many different walks of life
on like 6-figure salary. Yeah. And then he just joins the Marines. Now he's either got a load of money saved up in the bank, so he can take nearly a 80, 90 grand a year pay drop.
Yeah.
Because he wants to do, crazy. And then a few years ago, there was a couple of guys who were homeless that were in training.
Yeah.
You got this completely different.
That's
different
crazy.
Walks of life. And and you've got your mate, like, when you want to call on people and they'll be like, you speak to your mates and you go, I'm looking at getting an extension done. And one of them will go, well, I used to be a brickie before I joined the Marines. You're like, what?
Yeah.
All right. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you wouldn't necessarily meet those people in what some people deem as a normal walk of life, right? Just because you're all in there together, you sort of create these relationships. And I think that's great. I think it really is. Talk to us about some of the other work you've done, because I know you've done quite a lot of like motivational speaking. You're doing your Instagram now, your podcast. So talk to us about the motivational speaking first, because that is something that really resonates with me. I am all about the sort of not self-help sort of things. I'll see things on Instagram that just get me going. I'm all about the motivational stuff, trying to get people active, trying to get people to want to better themselves and better their life. So talk to us about that a little bit.
So I said at the start that you said about why did you join the Marines, and about having significant and pivotal people in your life at the right times. And
Yeah.
I've pretty much been, whilst the resume that I sent you has got loads of great stuff on it, that's built off a life of failure.
Yeah.
And built off a life of disappointment and hardship. And so, but in amongst all that, that helps. The pillars of that for me is having the right people around you at the right time. You can't do, in my opinion, you can't do anything on your own exclusively. You need to have support, even if it's a little bit or a lot. And I've always had the right, through no fault of no design by default, really, just had the right mentors or influences on my life. I remember a school teacher, Richard Jones, I went to secondary school. It was a sixth form, actually. He was my sixth form teacher, and he was amazing. I mean, I was a bit of a mess at school, like educationally, and he just kept believing in me. And I never realised it at the time how pivotal and important and influential that would be. There's my father-in-law's been amazing. I did a PT course in the Marines, and my course instructor Dave Hartley has been unbelievable as well. And you have people like that who have been there and can help you through quite a lot, especially the people those people are the ones that decided they were going to be proactive about it and go, look, I think we see a little bit of potential in this guy. He doesn't see it because he's being a bit of an idiot now. He's not mature enough to see it.
Especially when you're young and in school.
Well, even now, mate, now, do you know what I mean? It never stops. But yeah, you're right. In your formative years, and they've gone above and beyond. They didn't realize it because it's natural to them. And I don't forget stuff like that. And so when it comes to like giving back, I wouldn't call it like necessarily motivational speaking as such.
Okay.
I just go, it's just paying it forward.
Yeah.
It's just trying to pay that forward, where had I not had those people and that I've created my own opportunities, definitely. But at the start, had I not had those people in my life to be able to help me see and help me see and structure, then I probably would not be doing. There'd probably be a couple of lines on what I would have sent you.
Yeah,
it would have been. I would have had a nice life. I probably would have been down a pub every weekend. Doing whatever my mates now are doing, which I don't look down on at all. But that's just not where I want it to be.
Yeah,
and those people would help me. And so the motivational stuff has really been about just paying it forward, just trying to help people be better tomorrow than today. And that's basically the bottom line.
Yeah, I think it is important to surround yourself, especially like we said in your formative years, with people that can not only recognise potential in you, but push you to do things outside of your comfort zone so you can reach your full potential. And I think it's important for people listening, like you said, like there will be failures. Anyone that that is deemed as successful will have failed at some point in their life, but it's how you get back on. And a lot of people do have the fear of failure. They don't want to put themselves out there to say things and do things and try things in case it comes back and kicks them in the face. But that's part of life.
I completely agree. Failure was something that was like like them Shire horses have the big collars. Like failure to me was like that. And it shackled me for years and years and years. And I never regret anything, never, because everything's, I'm happy where I'm now.
That's exactly what I say.
Family. I've got a beautiful family. Like my career's going well, and everyone around me is healthy, which is good. But failure shackled me for so long, and it was something that was quite exhilarating when I realised that I wasn't being inhibited by it. And I remember being on my PT course. There's a 17-week physical training instructors course that the Marines do, and that if I thought training was hard, that was something else. Like that was ridiculous. But you're kind of just conditioned to be in a painful environment and hardship anyway. So, but that was something else. And I remember I did a circuit training exam, and I had a little bit of a confidence issue, and I still do with certain things. But I know the route to getting around that.
You know yourself better now.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember on my circuit training exam, Dave Hartley, the course instructor, said to me, he goes, "Right, you ready?" And I went, "Well, if I'm not, I'll fail." And I never said it like flippantly as like arrogance, go, "Yeah, I'm not." And it wasn't, wasn't bothered, but it was the first time, I think, certainly in my life, that I recognized that I wasn't scared of failing it. I was just going to give it everything I got. And I remember getting like 94% or something ridiculous. And I was like, whoa, so that's what it can do. Wow.
You can let it fuel you.
Yeah. And since then, don't get me wrong, I still have to argue with a little man on my shoulder. We've
all got that. We've all got that
yeah,
voice.
you've still got to argue. But since then, I can quieten it down more often than not.
Yeah.
And I just go, well, I'm just going to do it anyway.
This is the thing, right? I'm big on sort of training that voice up. Like every day you have that voice, oh, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But I just keep attacking the day by day. Like you said, I don't go, oh, I'm going to nail it this month or this year. I go, right, I'm going to smash today and then I'm going to rinse and repeat. That's kind of my ethos on it. Just keep doing.
Yeah, mate. Sorry, mate. That's where the Insta page CantCanWill comes from. It's
beautiful.
It's like I did a teamwork and mindset session at Wit Fitness end of last year, before lockdown, I might add. Socially distanced.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. And I was going to talk about like the commando mindset and about our values and standards and ethos. It's quite a big subject when you've only got 20 minutes to chat about, And I sort of like just came up with it. I said, well, how can I make that relatable and simple? And I just put, I can't, I can, I will. And so, and I sort of used that as a bit of a template, and the people on it, they loved it. They thought it was great. And I'm like, okay, cool. That makes sense. And then the more I started thinking about it, it's like, when you're lying in bed in the morning and you go, I can't be bothered to get up to go and do PT.
100%.
And you have to have that argument. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Come on. And then you will do it. And so you get up and you go and do it. And you never live in will.
I almost look forward to like having that battle. I see it as like I look forward to it. I'm like, right, we're gonna suppress this little voice in my head today. We're gonna absolutely nail him, show him what we can do today. I almost make it a little game.
You talked up the other shoulder.
Yeah.
To be bigger and stronger. You've trained it, and you know the pathway to get to will now. Whereas you may not have known that, but you've learned, and you've been self-aware, you're self-educated, and you go in, I know you can connect your feeling with your thought processes and go, this is what that is.
Yeah.
And you can get to will. But on the macro level, I can't climb Everest. Come on, you can do that. And people then go and climb it. It doesn't, I can't be asked to cook tonight. I'm just going to get a takeaway.
Yeah.
And then you go,
relate it to anything in your life, whether it be huge.
And anyone that says, you got some like unbelievable people like David Goggins who does some like batshit stuff.
It's just an extreme example, but it can be done.
But he will still have an argument in his head about going to the shops.
Yeah.
Without question. And anyone that says they don't is lying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely lying. It's normal. And so, that's where that kind of came from.
Yeah, just conquering the day. We all have that voice. And I think it's important, right? I like to personally, like you said, like getting stuff done, being productive, but I like to train my voice through exercise and like long form cardio. So if I go for a run, the whole time I'm running, I'm like, oh, we could stop here. We could stop here. Oh, we could walk from here, but I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and use that long form cardio as almost a vehicle to build that mental fortitude. I love it.
You should join the Marines, mate, because that's exactly what you need to. That's it. If you can crack that, you can do anything.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't mastered it. Don't get me wrong, but
you'd have to have a shave though. You wouldn't.
Would I? Oh, I don't know. Then maybe a bit of a deal breaker. It's my superpower. This beard. I look about 12 without it. But yeah, I just use long form cardio or any exercise really, which is an interesting segue into my next point, because I know you recently, before lockdown, another disclaimer, I got your blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And I feel that sometimes jiu-jitsu just mirrors life so much. What the quote you said, sometimes you're the statue, sometimes you're the pigeon. I say hammer or nail. And jiu-jitsu is very much one of those things, right? If you're not good at it, you're not good at it. Or like someone's better than you. And it is literally a fight. Like it is a fight. And there'll be points where you're on top of someone, you're getting all these submissions, but then when you're the now, you are the now. You're on bottom, you're getting hot gi rash on your face, you're getting smashed, there's no way out of it. And that does help build it as well, because not only is that a long form of cardiovascular endurance, that is in its simplest form a fight. So talk to us about your experience in jiu-jitsu, how you got into jiu-jitsu and what it's done for you and how much you enjoy it.
Mate, I started jiu-jitsu about 11 years ago.
Nice.
In the Marines,
Yeah.
and with Sam Sheriff actually,
Yeah.
he's got Reorg now, the Reorg charity. He's doing amazing things with that, by the way.
He's doing wonderful
And
stuff.
so I started when we were white belts. He started about the same time, and there was one turn of events. One thing led to another. I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And I was involved. I did a few no-gi competitions, and it wasn't as big in the Marines as it was then, but that Sam changed a lot of that.
He's really brought it up.
Yeah, he's been incredible,
It's
like
great
unbelievable.
It really is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I stopped, and I wanted to play rugby, and so I played rugby for the Marines instead. And
Nice.
and the longer you spend off the mat, and people that have done this will know, the harder it is to get back on the mat. For exactly that reason, where you say to yourself, "Oh, but I should be further on, and that person shouldn't be able to beat me." And that to me, I look back on that, and I regret that? Yeah, I do regret stopping. Now I'm back in, but I welcome that because I obviously didn't have the right ego for jiu-jitsu at the time. Because if you have an ego, then you won't go back on the mat.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't ready as a person to take that journey on. And I probably would have failed and stopped at some point because I wasn't accepting in myself that I'm 6'5", I'm about 18 stone, fairly physically active, and so I wasn't ready then to be the nail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so
wasn't right.
and so that's probably why I went into rugby, where because if you're a little bit bigger, you can batter people on the pitch, and that's where you are.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, I spent a long time out, and I just didn't go back. And I bumped into Sam. We started working together down at the training centre down at Lympstone, the Marine Training Centre, and he just said to me, he goes, "Mate, do you want to?" Sam's a brown belt by now. He says, "Mate, do you want to have a little spin on the mats?" And I went, "No, I don't know." And like in the end, he's quite persuasive, Sam, and he does it, in his own right. And we went and had a little spin on the mats, and I didn't have it was like trying to read again. You didn't have a clue what you're doing. And he's going, "Mate," and I had no body, I had nothing, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this is amazing. I loved it. And I started training. I'm an all or nothing person. That's the problem.
So am I.
I was like 4 or 5 times a week I'm training. I'm back in. I'm loving it. And I'm like, right, teach me more. I just want to get better at this and better and better. And we ended up going to London, and that's where Sam introduced me to Richmond's up at Elevate. And those boys have been amazing, like really incredible, sort of little fraternity, really. The club's such a great place, as you're well aware. And started training up at Richmond, and it was amazing because the level of instruction is unbelievable. And what I was learning, I was training there 4 or 5 times a week as well, and just loving it, absolutely loving it, and
embracing all the learning,
getting better and better. But perversely, I was getting used to. I preferred the days that I was getting battered.
Yeah.
Because that meant that my body weight and my strength was I wasn't doing the technique correctly.
You wasn't relying on your athleticism.
Yeah. I mean, that's important. Don't get me wrong. And I wanted to roll with people that were better than me because I wanted to learn. I was like, as you do, you're going, right, what have they just done with their foot there, or how did they just put them? How's that not worked? And I was loving it, and that was that.
I think that speaks to the mindset as well. A lot of people would be like, "Oh, I'm getting crushed. I don't want to do this," but then you're like, "No, I want to be where you are and do this to other people effortlessly."
Can you not you can't. There is no other sport really in the world that I can think of, and I'll be willing to prove wrong, that someone who's like 6'5", 18 stone can be turned inside out by someone who's 5'6" and 14 stone.
Yeah.
Like literally, not like be wrapped up in knots. I mean, there was a lad I trained with down in Bournemouth. He's like 19 years old and like half my weight and body size. Oh my! Like literally, I didn't know what was going. I felt like I was in a washing machine.
Yeah.
And like. I loved it because I'm like, right, what do I need to do? No, I'm nowhere near his standard, but I want to know.
You're better than you was, It's important as well to like not compare yourself to someone who's better, but compare yourself to yourself, right? You'll roll with him again and get smashed less, maybe.
Yeah, and do you know what? And jiu-jitsu has got so many parallels to life. It's unbelievable. So, I mean, and I'm sure other sports will have that as well. But I've done a lot of
it's
other.
as pure as jiu-jitsu, you know. It's just
your journey is yours.
Yeah.
Your development is yours. You'll have good days and bad days, but the point is, you just got to keep getting back on that mat. You have to keep going and keep moving forward. And the bad days are the good days. When you look back, they're the days you learn the most.
For sure.
But what you have is you have a group of people like the unwritten rules of jiu-jitsu and the family environment 100%. Is so positive, and people 100%. People will give you will turn you inside out and then come and pat you on the back going, mate, well done today. Like, and genuinely mean it. There's no sarcasm.
No.
They genuinely mean it. And you're like, it's such a positively intoxicating environment to be in.
It's crazy for people listening, probably haven't experienced it, but it's so true. It's a crazy sport, and I like what you said. There's no replacement for time served on that mat. Like, if I've done more than you, I will be better than you, right? If you've done more than me, you'll be better than me. And that's beautiful, because with all martial arts, to be honest, if you put in the time, you get more out of it. That's what I think is so great about it. And again, another parallel to life, like you said, you put in the hours, you will get better at it, and it will just come. And one day it'll drop, and you'll be getting things that you haven't even thought you've learned, and it'll all just come together.
I've never felt the emotion that I felt when I was presenting my blue belt on anything, even getting my green beret in the Marines. Because I remember sat at home. Don't get me wrong, I was more than proud to get my beret in the Marines, but I never. It was like a known gradual progression. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, you don't know when it's going to happen. It just happens when you're good enough, and you don't really know when you're good enough. You kind of have an idea, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's out of your hands for the most part.
Yeah, and like, I remember sitting at home when I got my green beret from the Marines, and I sat down on my bed at home, looked at it, and went, "All right," and chucked it in the bin and went, "What's next?" That never happened when I got the blue belt, because it was like I was just overwhelmed, fully overwhelmed, because you have to go through. And I think the difference with Marine training and jiu-jitsu is that in the Marines, it is individual effort, but you can't do anything in the Marines without being in a team.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas jiu-jitsu, you're in a club environment, but you're the one that, if you either you progress or you don't.
Yeah.
You win or you lose. It's yours. No one. They facilitate that journey, and however it happens. But in the Marines, it's very linear, that journey. So as long as you keep, whereas my blue belt was mine.
Yeah, you had that.
Whereas my green beret, it was a team effort, and that's the way I saw it. And so it was, I don't know, it was just different. It's absolutely different, but
it is a crazy sport. When did you get your blue belt?
So we invited a few of the guys from Richmond, some of the coaches, down to the Marine Centre in London, and took them through their paces. We did some Raw Marine close combat, so it was basically unarmed combat, but it was with kit on and helmets and stuff like that. And so we had some of the head instructors down, and they were doing it, and it's completely different when you've got kit on, doing takedowns and whatnot with rifle and webbing and helmet and boots and all the rest of it. It's different. And so they came down and they said, and I remember speaking to Tommy, and Tommy said, "Look, if there's anything we can do in return, then let us know." And we're only in Southfields.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, if there's any chance of getting to HQ at Hodger Gracie's HQ, even just to look around, that'd be amazing." And he said, "Yeah, no problem." So we sorted it out. It was the Wednesday before the lockdown before Christmas.
Okay, yeah.
And so we sorted it out, and a few of us went up there, and Mauricio Gomez was there, amazing.
Yeah.
And Hodger wasn't there. I was like, okay, cool. But it was just amazing. We did some training, COVID compliant, I might add. And we did some training. And then the next thing I know, just as Nathan's got me in a wrist lock, which I didn't even know what one of those was, because you don't do them until you're blue belt. Tommy said, "I'll come over. Hodger's here to say hello." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And then they just pulled out the belt, and I was like, and then Hodger Gracie presented it, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
You had no idea.
No, man. It was like, unbelievable. I mean, I always say if Carlsberg did belt promotions, it's like, and then, it was just like so overwhelming. And then we went to the pub and it was £1 a drink because they were getting rid of the barrel. So you couldn't write it.
What a day.
Amazing.
What a day.
Yeah. Yeah. My round.
Yeah. He gets smashed off a score.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that was really good. It was really good.
So, moving away from jiu-jitsu a little bit, talk to us about some of the more work you're doing with Regain. Regain, if I got that right?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah.
Double check myself, not doubt myself.
Yeah. No. It was you've done your homework.
Yeah.
So, okay, Regain. So Regain, I sort of fell into that maybe about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I did some work. So, as I said, I was a physical training instructor. I specialised in rehabilitation, physical rehabilitation.
Nice.
And as part of an exchange of getting the job that I wanted in the Marines, I basically had to go to Plymouth. There was a complex trauma unit in Plymouth called Hasler, which had the most significant and severe wounded, injured, and sick service personnel that the Marines had. So, I mean, we're talking all sorts, not just injuries and illnesses from Afghanistan. We're talking, cancers, tumors, tropical diseases, you name it. I mean, we don't like to think that we are, but we're humans at the end of the day, and we're susceptible to anything else that,
for sure,
that everyone else is. So, I went there for 4 months, and just for a small window, and we went to San Diego for 2 weeks on a military. Yeah, very good. We went to San Diego on a military adaptive sporting competition that US Marines invited us to. Incredible experience. And I sort of led a team of severely injured service personnel, Marines, that when at the end of that 2 weeks, I mean, it was crazy. It was a really good trip. But at the end of the 2 weeks, we went. I was after a lad called Rosie, and Rosie had been in Afghanistan, and they have something called familiarization patrols. So what would happen is if you were in a US military and I was British, before the main body of blokes would come over from the US, they would send a smaller group of people over, and you would come out on patrol with me to get an understanding of the ground, to understand the tactics that the enemy. So there would be some sort of handover process in theatre. So it wouldn't just be US Marines turn up. They don't know what's going on. They have to learn it as they go. They've got a bit organised. They've got a bit of corporate knowledge in their organisation that go, oh yeah, but I've been here for 4 weeks already, and I understand the lay of the land.
Yeah.
So there was a US Marine that was out on patrol with him, and they basically stopped to do a map check, and there was an explosion that went off, and the US Marine took the brunt of the explosion. He'd only been out there for 2 weeks, and he died. And Rosie got blown off his feet, and he ended up blind in one eye, and then on his left hand, he basically lost his fingers in his left hand and shrapnel wounds all over his body, but he survived. And I remember, I mean, there's loads of stories like that that I could tell, but I remember going up to his room. So we were waiting for the transfer in America. And so has everyone seen Rosie? And they're like, well, yeah, he's up in his room, I think. I was like, right, we've got to go. We're going to be late. So I ran up to his room and knocked on the door. And I said, everything all right? He goes, yeah, no problem, mate, no problem. I said, do you want a hand with anything? Excuses upon. And I said, do you want a hand anything? And he said, no, I'm good. I saw him turn around, walk away into his room. He walked to his bag where he straddled his bag, sat down, and then pinched the bag between his knees to try and do the zip up in the center of the bag with one hand. Now, his bag was overflowing with presents for the kids. So he can't hold the bag with two hands.
Yeah.
He's trying to do the zip up with one hand and use his knees to act as the other hand, as it were. And it was at that moment I went, I get it. It's not the big stuff that's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like going on a sporting competition is great because it builds confidence. It enables you not disabled, and it allows equality in terms of competition. It's you don't have to feel like you're on the back foot. But it's the small stuff that makes the difference. The fact that he couldn't hold a nail and a hammer at the same time to put the nail in the wall to hang a picture of his kids up. That was the sort of stuff that really got to these guys. And I was like, wow, okay. This is, I can help here.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we did, and we did a lot for. I got heavily invested in them. I ended up with the Invictus Games team, which Prince Harry had organised, and went with the British team to London, Toronto, and Sydney. I ended up off the back of that going to the Paralympics in 2016 with a friend of mine, Phil Eaglesham, an incredible guy as well. I ended up being his carer in the Marines, and now we're best mates.
Yeah.
And he qualified for the Paralympics, having 2 years before attempted suicide. He got a disease in Afghanistan called Q fever, and it was a debilitating disease. But all he was guilty of was breathing in, and it affected his body like motor neurons disease, chronic fatigue. They don't really know. And it got to the point where he was going to drive himself into a local pond because he can't swim. He's in an electric wheelchair, everyone would be better off. And in the time frame between that, it's his lowest ebb. And I always say about that as well, for someone to be that low, and come back from that, for me, shows absolute mental strength.
Yeah.
There is no place to go other than up. There is no bottom dollar.
Yeah,
You're at the bottom dollar.
Bottom.
There is nothing to build on other than the floor. It's a start point. And he ended up going to the Paralympic Games, and he's just about to launch a mobility device called Victor Mobility. So he's an entrepreneur. So don't get me wrong, he has bad days, but I mean, these stories you can thick and fast. But it was I mentioned him because the mental health side of stuff is really that's where it started with him, where I saw the effects of mental health on him, and it affected me in so much as I want to try and help see if I can do something about this, because it's got to be, once the guys get to that destination, there's not really a lot you can do.
Yeah.
You can it's more reactionary. Let's be proactive about this. And so I got a load of guys together, and we ended up setting up a project called Regain, and it was a grassroots initiative trying to change the narrative and the paradigm around mental health in the Marines. This was like 8 years ago. And we thought that Marines are roughy, tufty creatures. They consider themselves as a macho and alpha and all the rest of it.
Definitely.
If we can try and pierce that and get into these guys and still deliver the same operational output, then we can do it with anybody. It's one of the hardest groups to crack.
Sure.
We can do it with anyone, and we did. And it was a grassroots initiative. They come up with a name, they come up with a slogan, when strength alone just isn't enough. And we launched basic education to people. That was colloquial language. It was credibly delivered. So I managed, thankfully, to get a really brave individual, Dan Maskell, to tell his story in front of the lads. And his story was not combat related. His was personal, to do with his family. And he would stand up in front of hundreds of people and tell his story, which was really, really hard. But if it wasn't for Dan Maskell doing that, then the project would never have succeeded.
Yeah.
Because the weight of one of your own saying, yeah, I had a big problem. Like, Dan came to me and he was going to hang himself. I didn't know this, but had I not picked him up, he was in my workplace.
Yeah.
Had I not picked him up the day before, just because I went, oh, you're right, mate. And then all of a sudden it came out 2 hours later of all his problems. And he said, I'm glad I spoke to you, because tomorrow I was going to do it. And that was just by accident though. That was the thing. And I'm like, shit, if this was by accident, that's not good. We need to know this stuff.
Yeah.
And so we went off basic signs and symptoms. We went off, just leadership and management type stuff, and real basics though, because if I can understand it, anyone can understand it. It's not, we don't have to make it complicated. But and that's where it come from, and so regain, that's where it is, and I just fell in love with it. But that was where my own problems came about though. That was the problem. It's where you open what one of my mates said to me recently. Actually, he said, where darkness shines, light will shine elsewhere, but you've just got to look for the light. And we always maybe look in the wrong places for light. And I think I was looking for light in my life, through that, but that actually was not the right place. Yeah, it's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a crazy ride, and I think people can really resonate with that because, like you said, they'll see people that are ex-Marines and like very typically alpha male are they're like you said, you guys are human, like a different breed of human. Like they've dedicated their life to do this. They've got to be so mentally strong. They've got to be this. They've got to be that. But people, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, we all have a mind and we all have stuff that we go through. It's just a case of dealing with it and breaking down that kind of stigma that are like men don't cry or men don't go through stuff, because it's huge now, especially like in the age of social media that we are. Like it can be a powerful thing to spread a good message that, look, this stuff does happen to us. It may happen to you, but you can get through it. It's not the end. Like you said, that's a nice quote, where darkness opens, there's light somewhere else, which is absolutely true. So I think it's a great thing that you're spreading, and you're a great living example of it. And you can see the passion that you've got for it through what you do, how often you post on your things, just the way you speak about it. So I think that is a really good thing you're doing.
Cheers, mate. I think, I think we've lost the ability to connect. And I try and read a lot more now. I never used to bother, but reading, I underestimated how powerful reading actually is.
Powerful.
And I read a book by Brené Brown called Daring Greatly, and she does a TED talk which I recommend. So I had to go and see a psychologist a few years back because I had a breakdown at work, and I basically cried for about 2 hours in my office, and I didn't realize it was coming. I had no idea that it was that what was going on, and I was not as low as my mate a couple of years back, but I felt like the lowest I'd been ever.
Yeah.
And what I was actually doing was masking by trying to help people. A friend of mine who's a psychiatrist said to me, he said, "You're like a drug addict, but for helping people. The more that you help people, the more drug you get, make you feel good about yourself."
Yeah.
But he said the problem is, like a drug, you can't take the same volume or dose. You have to take more
You
to
need
get
to
the same hit.
up it, yeah.
And then what you then do is you overdose. And so what I was doing, I was basically masking my own insecurities and my own problems with feeling great off a drug of helping other people.
Yeah. But there was still an underlying issue.
Yeah, but I didn't realize, I didn't
Yeah.
know that was the problem. And so I went to see this psychologist. She was amazing. It was hard though. And so like the logo that I use is like a map symbol with the directional arrows, 3 directional arrows. There's one in the center and then one left and right in a circle. And I say that the reason why that was is because someone said to me, and I only came about it when I was talking about it. I said, it's like map reading, really. She said to me, "Do you know where you are, like in your life, sort of thing?" Big question, big, deep, meaningful question. And I'm like, Marine going, "Yeah, of course I do." I'm like, "Yeah, I've done this, I've done it." Like, "Yeah, but do you know where you are?" And then like she knows that I'm talking crap.
Yeah, she sees.
I know I'm talking crap, but I don't want to say I'm talking crap.
Yeah.
And then she keeps asking, "Do you know where you are?" And I'm going, "No, I don't actually." Like I didn't. I thought I knew who I was. And what she was able to do was help me understand where I'd come from, because I thought I knew that as well, and I didn't really sort of know. Find out where I am now, and then make me readjust my direction slightly. And that's where that the logo comes from, because your directional arrow is yours, or your organization is theirs. And if you start to veer off left and right, which we will do, and help you come back into the center line, which is your directional arrow. And it's just understanding where you are. And I'm not sure whether I like the words because it's a little bit not very macho or masculine, but self-care is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't know about yourself and know who you are, right, genuinely who you are, then, and what your capacity and limits are, and you assume you do, you're not fulfilling your potential. Because you don't know the variables. You wouldn't drive a racing car. Lewis Hamilton wouldn't drive a racing car around a track if he didn't know the full potential of that car.
Yeah.
And he didn't know how to operate that car at any given moment, at any given time, to get the fastest out of that car. So the tires might be slightly deflated. He would have to do something in the car to make sure he could get maximum speed. If he didn't know that car, he wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so if you then look at yourself, if you don't know yourself, how can you get the best out of yourself if you don't know yourself? So yeah, it's a strange old thing, but
I
yeah,
do
it
like
was.
the analogy of the arrows, because people often think that getting to where you want to be, they're just going to go straight up. But like it goes back
Doesn't work
to
that way.
having failures left, right, down, up. But as long as the general trend of things is you're working towards something, then you're on the right track. But it's just a case of, like you said, knowing yourself, managing yourself, and that will come through just what I found from my limited experience, just trial and error, trying things out, working out what works for me. So I think that is an important message as well.
Well, it is complete trial and error to an extent. But the more that you read up, the more you invest, the more you understand and listen to yourself. I don't think people listen to themselves enough. You know, some people say you've got to get up early in the morning. Some people say go to bed late. Some people, you have to listen to yourself. And as long as you take that information, you make an educated decision. And that's something that we're trying to get after at the moment, is changing the narrative as well behind what mental health means. Because I think mental health as a term has attracted a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And people really, when they talk about mental health, they talk about illness, but you can talk about mental fitness as well in there. You know, there's a whole raft of stuff. So changing the narrative behind human performance. How can we make you better tomorrow than today, regardless of whether you are struggling or not? And if you're not struggling, how can we make you better, even better than what you are? And if you are struggling, let's make you better tomorrow anyway, even if it's marginal, you know? So it's just it's not trying to forget about illness at all.
Yeah.
But focusing on illness all the time starts to breed a reactionary culture, rather than focusing on the holistic sort of intervention of just being better tomorrow. And if you understand those variables, however you feel in the day, you can understand then how to get the best out of that day and the best out of your week and year and so on and so forth. So
there's something to be said for momentum, I feel. Like if you just nail one day and then the next day you're a little bit better, even if someone's watching this, right, and they're not doing much with their life, even just starting their day, right, I'm going to make my bed, I'm going to drink a glass of water, I'm going to have a coffee, I'm going to go and do these small things to start my day off that will then set the tone for the rest of my day. Do that every day and then do one productive task a day, then build on that, build on that. It's never going to be, people often are like, all right, today I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to eat all healthy food, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. People try and overdo things, but if you just, like you said, try and increase 1% better each day, then you'll look back in a few weeks' time and go, oh my God, I'm doing this. And then it just starts to become a habit, and you're just developing these good habits, which in turn will get you the results you want to be getting. So I do think that's important for people as well.
Yeah, I think it's just so important that for me, there's a couple of factors in terms of progression that you have to accept. One, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Because if it's not hard, you're not doing it right. It's supposed to be hard.
100%.
And so if it doesn't feel hard, then it's not right. And that's the thing that puts a lot of people off, is because it feels hard, that can't be right. Success for me doesn't come easily. And anyone anyone would view as successful, whether it be professionally, in family, and in finance, whatever it might be, it comes at a cost and a sacrifice to make that happen. So anyone that you would see that would be rich in family, the chances are that they would have had to sacrifice something to be rich in family. So say professional progression, to spend more time at home. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it has to be hard, and there will be sacrifices to make. And so what I say to people is that you need to understand why you want to make the change, not just because it's popular. Why do you want to make that change? Why do you want to be fitter? Or why do you want to lose weight? Or why do you want to be better at work? Not what everyone else is about. Because when it gets hard, that will be the thing that will keep you on track, because you want it. And it's got to be something. It's not just because I want to. Well, you might want to change your mind tomorrow. It's got to be something that you want. Like,
you need a why.
It's a desire. It's not because everyone else is doing it. That's not good enough. It's a desire to make something happen, because when that struggle will happen, that desire keeps you on track and keeps you on point and on target.
Yeah.
You know, but also understanding that you will fail as well along the way.
And that's fine.
You will fail, and that's absolutely fine. And I think a really important factor to sum up is you've got to take your opportunities as well. And so you would have got it with the work you do when people go, I'll start tomorrow. No, start now.
Yeah.
Start now. What about tomorrow? You just wasted 12 hours.
Yeah.
Start now.
Especially given what's going on in the world at the moment, right? We've all got so much free time. I'm going
to start losing weight. I'm going to start losing weight tomorrow morning when I get up. We'll do it now.
I'll get summer body ready. Like, let's go then. Let's go. Let's work.
Yeah, and so I think take opportunities because you don't know when they're going to come again.
Sure.
You don't know when you're going to get that opportunity again. And I think you're right. In today's climate, the last 12 months, just anyway, I think people have understood that being locked up, the opportunities that they're missing. And I think it's important that you take those opportunities, because if you don't, you're going to sit there.
Yeah.
A really sort of like corny analogy, but
these are the true ones.
You are the author of your book.
It's true.
And when you die, how interesting your book's going to be will depend on you, no one else. And whether your book will be made into a movie or not is up to you. Yeah. And so for me, it's about the kids. What do I want the kids to read when I'm gone about my life, and how can it inspire them and help them to be better tomorrow than today? And that's basically you only when one chapter ends in your life, another one opens, and you get to feel the content. And if you don't take the opportunity, you can't feel the content.
When you see it like that, it becomes more exciting. You're like, oh, I'm actually in control here. Like, I can make a difference. Like, you want to get up each day and be like, all right, let's and once you start sort of doing things and setting these little goals and hitting them, that's when it becomes exciting. You're like, I can actually do this. Like, I have control over my own life. Like, I don't have to do a 9-to-5 job that I hate, plod along, do everything that everyone else is doing. I can build a life for myself through hard work. But if it wasn't hard work, then it wouldn't be worth it. That I want to live. I can leave something behind that is going to reflect my life perfectly and get to where I want to be. We only get one go round, so why would you not work towards something that you want?
Yeah, and exactly that. And that's why, even down to a little thing, a shameless plug, if I don't mind.
Go for it. I was going to plug you at the end anyway.
All right. Oh, nice one. Thanks. But yeah, that's last year I decided I wanted to do a podcast on my own. And I ain't got a clue how to, I don't have a clue. I just went, oh yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so buying the microphones, I've got this thing set up here, but I don't know if I've done it right. Just YouTube videos and, but now I'm like sort of 6 months later, I'm thinking, well, what a stupid thing to say about setting a podcast up. It's like, of course you can do it, but it was hard graft. Jesus, like trying to edit sound waves. I can't even read. You know what I mean? Let alone read radio. So it was. But the premise of it, the CantCanWill podcast, is to basically speak to people that have either inspiring or they're experts in their fields to help people. So I speak to people that have maybe suffered grief and loss, or alcohol specialists, or sporting figures, or whoever it might be, that you just can take something tangible away to go, I'm going to do that now.
Yeah.
And it again in the quest for to perform better, as it were.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Just working towards that lifestyle you want to live. It is. How long have you been podcasting for? Sorry, then.
Mate, I started. It started January. So basically, I'm building a bank of them up at the moment, and I'll release them in about 2 weeks. Start releasing them. So nice. Once I've got a few of them in the hard drive, then I'll start releasing them.
It's like anything, really. It's a skill, right? Like, even like with your content creation or podcast, like, you find yourself, you get better at it each time. You're more comfortable on camera. You sort of work out things to do. Editing it becomes somewhat easier after a while, and it is good just to have things in your life that you can consistently see yourself leveling up at. For me, anyway, that's what gets me going, just getting better each day, or trying to, and then you look back, like, I document a lot of my training, my progress, looking back, like, oh, I've gained X amount of followers, looking back at old videos of me training, getting smashed. I'm like, oh, I'm here now. And like, having good quantifiable goals to work towards, like your blue belt, for example, like the feeling you get from that, like, you can't buy that anywhere. That work that you put in, and then achieving that and getting that and being like, this is mine, I've earned this. You can't get that anywhere else. And I think that's where life gets fun for me, working towards stuff, smashing that goal. And it's like, right, what's next? What are we going to do? So that's just my mindset on it.
I like the stuff that you're doing, and I really like the comment about, you know, you live to take on that person on your shoulder.
Yeah.
I want to have that battle, and that to me is about changing the narrative, because sometimes people can get talked down, or a lot of people get talked down by that person. And I like what you said there about taking that person on. That's what I want. I want that challenge.
I want that
Come on,
each day.
try and stop me, because that person on your shoulder is you.
Yeah.
And that is the challenge. You're challenging yourself, you know, and that's all the only barometer that you should ever have is you compete against yourself every day, not necessarily against other people, although that's what it would seem. So if you can conquer yourself, you can do anything.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Well, I've got 2 more questions to finish with, and then we can call that a day, my friend. It's been a good old chat. So we'll go. What would you say is the highlight of your career? Is there any one moment that you'd say, I'm very proud to be in this moment right now?
My professional career, I would say, I'm a lad from southwest London.
Yeah.
Nothing special about me, you know, working class family. And I ended up on the New Year's Honours list a few years ago.
Nice.
And for the work I did about mental health. And so, you know, that was pretty incredible feeling, because someone else had been bothered to think that the work that I did was valuable and took the time and effort. And I've realised how much effort it is to write those proposals up and the scrutiny it gets. But whilst it's my professional, it was me that got it. It was the hard work of a lot of people and in the Royal Marines to make that happen. But that was getting that letter was like, yeah, I nearly took a knee in the street, you know, like, what's going on? Like, you know, like, is this me? But yeah, that's definitely the highlight of my professional career, definitely.
Very nice. And my final question of the day, if you could speak to your younger self, what piece of advice would you give him?
Simple. The advice would be, don't be scared of failure. It's a passage of right to success. And looking back about how much it inhibited myself when I was younger, I'd pin my younger self up by the throat against the wall, going with a finger in his face, going, listen to me. If you do anything else moving forward, do not be scared of failing. You need failure to succeed. Yeah. So don't worry about it. It happens. And then if I could, then like the sliding doors, see where my life goes from that point. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's the one piece of advice.
I think you made a nice point earlier about not living in regret, though, especially with, like, you're very happy. So am I of where I am now, right? So all these things are learning experiences. Even if you could have done something better, there's no point losing sleep over it, because you can't control it ultimately. So I think that is a beautiful point.
Mate, you know, I've always been a person that if you don't like something, change it.
Yeah.
I know that sounds easy to do, and people listening to this going, well, I can't because of, but change it. You look at the civil rights marches that happened in the 60s. People weren't happy with it. They're looking at changing it. You know, you look at women's equality. You know, these are big, massive topics.
Yeah.
But people weren't happy with that. And they marched in the UK to get a vote, and it hasn't stopped, and good on them as well, you know. Whereas, you know, down to, I'm not happy with my job, we'll change it then. Yeah. You know, like you look at macro and micro level, just change it. You only get one shot at this life.
Exactly.
Now, how interesting is your book going to be? Just someone that's unhappy with their life, then you know, change it to what you want to do.
You're the director. I like that one a lot. I do like that. It makes it almost not objectifies. It makes it more fun, right? You see it as that, and you're like, I can do this. It
does, but it also puts it back on you, because there is no excuses. You ain't got anything to hide behind, because you own it.
Yeah.
Not someone that you can't blame it on anyone else.
That's it. Self accountability. It's beautiful. Right. Well, I think that will wrap us up for today. Thank you for coming on. This has been probably one of my more enjoyable. I'm all about the motivational stuff. Before we do go, we are going to plug you. So just talk to us about where we can find you on Instagram, through your personal or your other one, and your podcast, if you want to just plug them away.
Yeah, mate. So Instagram, my personal ones, at MoMorrisRM, or my sort of business professional one is at CantCanWill. And yeah, the podcast will be out in a few weeks' time, the CantCanWill podcast. So
Beautiful.
I'll be sharing the hell out of that with the limited followers I've got, but we'll see what happens. And yeah, hopefully it spreads a bit of love and enjoyment to people and inspires them to be better tomorrow than today.
That's it. It's a beautiful message. Again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for everyone listening, and keep doing what you're doing. Go and smash your life. You can take anything away from this. It is that you are in control. If you don't like it, change it. Other than that, we're signing out. Peace.